Well, you've already seen the first slide, so I will start and you can help me figuring this out. On the first slide, that guy, that's my father. And that picture was taken in 1980. And I was 14 at the time. I'm 60 now, so it's quite a while ago. And my father started working on something that is these days called cultivated meat. At the time, it was called Invitromeat. And he managed to work on this until he was 92 and died in 2015. And everything you know about cultivated meat these days started with him. He wrote the first patents, he wrote the first proof of concept, and he got the first ever government funding, 2.2 million from the Dutch government. I'm Dutch. I live in Amsterdam, by the way. And all the research, everything you can eat right now in Singapore started with my father. A relentless travel between an idea, a conviction, and doctors, medical doctors at the time working on stem cell research, trying to save human lives, trying to make medicine out of that tech. Finding it very hard to meet a guy that thought it was a good idea to make steaks out of stem cell research instead of skin grafts. And with this current state of the world, I think if we manage to do that idea, I think we will save lots and lots and lots of life with the same tech. So bear in mind that a technique for something, don't discard the other possibilities that techniques might have. And that is what my talk is going to be about. The second slide. Let's see if I can work this. Yeah. These days, thanks to Isha Datar, it is called cellular agriculture, because you're actually growing cells to do something like you're growing seeds. And what do? You take a sample of tissue, you take out stem cells, you grow those stem cells, and we know how to do that. You make them grow even more, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And if you understand cell growth a little bit, the last step from, let's say, 39 doublings to 49 doublings is a complete doubling of your whole, let's say, harvest. And then you make sure that in that bioreactor, you have food for the cells, because they don't grow on thin air. Every cell that wants to grow needs to be fed. And it needs to be fed with sugars, with proteins, some small amounts of high-end components. And then you make something that can taste like meat, or in a further away future, even can become meat. A helper here.
Why don't you use the mic as well? Because
Is it hard for me to? Is it hard for people to understand me in the back? Is it okay? Thank you. I'm used, so if it is not okay, I'll stand here. No, I prefer it like this. I walk around more. Okay, let's go to the next. This. If your father has a crazy idea, you think that's fun. It's not. This is my life. And that's why I said to someone, I'm not going to tell you who I am. I'm going to tell you what I am. And I am an advisor. I'm an advocate. I'm a crazy person. I'm a designer. I do politics. And I'm very, very proud to be part of one of the biggest grants in the world, 60 million from the Dutch government we put into cellular agriculture. I'm part of the board of the foundation that got this all started. And currently in the Netherlands, we have a huge and very robust thing happening. Let's see if I can get to the next slide. Yeah, that's just this message me. Otherwise it will take forever. Okay, what I also did is start an organization that is called KindEarth.Tech. And with KindEarth.Tech, I've been able to do events in San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, Barcelona. And we have the most awful business model in the world. We do not pay people to be on stage. You cannot be on stage with us when you pay us. We just invite you to share your tech, your innovation. If it is kind to the earth in the long run, we want startups, innovators, students, and even long-time advocates to be on stage with us. We coach them on giving presentations that are not pitches, and we also made the industry maps. You can find them on the website of KindEarth.Tech, and there you can see how this field of alternative proteins at first, but these days I use the word complementary proteins, how that has grown. So those are our maps. Next slide. Yeah. This is what we are going to do with the 60 million, build an ecosystem. Just the tech on a bench in a laboratory doesn't mean much. If you cannot incorporate that in the value chain, it will go nowhere. It will be a fun idea that people and journalists can talk about, but it will not hit your plate, it will not go to the supermarket, it will go nowhere. So what we wanted to create with the 60 million is, we actually asked for 600 million, well, we got 60 million, still the biggest grant ever. The total grant is 85 million. It will run for 8 years. And what we've got now is education. We've got a robust group of researchers, and we will be an open access scale-up facility in the Netherlands for any startup that wants to cultivate meat and doesn't want to burn all the investment money into buying appliances that are way too expensive. So that is what we're building. And that's all fun and nice, and that's good. But in this field, we were forgetting something. And one of the best kept secrets, I just told you that the Netherlands put in 2.2 million in 2000. It was a program that ran until 2008 and was never followed up. But the outcome of that research, nobody knows. Does anybody know here what the outcome was on cultivated wheat? What was it for? Okay. Not fun these last week. It was actually how farmers could do cultivated wheat on farms by feeding the cells by recombinant algae also grown on farms. Why are we talking about it today and not already in 2008? What happened in 2008? Politics shifted, like they are doing now, mind you. We had a bank crisis. We were having other worries, like the war. And in the Netherlands, we had a shift from innovation investments to a top sector investment. And in that follow-up, investment in cultivated meat was not possible. Cultivated meat as an idea and a possibility would have actually died if not a crazy guy in 2013 would have said, I want to do something for animals, found Professor Mark Post, who was in my father's team, and created that first expensive hamburger. And that was shown to the world, 4 hamburgers, it took 2 million, and it was fun, and it was a great idea, and a lot of people took to it. A lot of investors in the US took to it. And they had one thing in mind: cultivated meat will only be a good idea if we scale it up like crazy, bring the price down, and then people will buy it. Whereas that is a great idea. It's called the economies of scale. But they forgot the economy of numbers. If you do something on a lot of farms, you also have a huge scale. And this idea was completely left behind again, even when a lot of money was thrown at cultivated meat. And it annoyed me. So I started RESPECTfarms, bringing the origin of cultivated meat back to life. And right now, I got my government crazy enough to fund me. Can you guys help me start the film? That's about before, so it's gonna work. I got money from the Dutch government because they were very curious. Okay, Ira, so you think farmers can make cultivated meat on farms? I said, yes. Really? Yes. And why did I think that was so important? Watching this film that I made, it's a vision film. And I hope to be able on exactly this farm to do this within 2 years if we get enough funding to do it. But we are able to do it, and we have farmers wanting to do it. So it's not, and everything in the film that you can see is real, and real people and people really working on this. Bear in mind that the Netherlands is one of the biggest agrotech exporters on a daily basis in the world. So we're a small, tiny, itchy-bitchy, funny country. And we speak all kinds of languages because nobody speaks Dutch. So we have to. But we export farming, intensive agriculture, everything we want to stay away from, like crazy. So if I have to change anything, I have to change it in a letter so that in the future, when the government wants to do something, they don't buy one of our farms or our milking robots, but they buy a cultivated meat farm. That's the purpose. Let's start the film and show you what it would look like.
Isn't it a wonderful sight? My cows frolicking in the meadow. This makes me so happy. For 87 years, this farm has been run by my family. From my great-grandparents William and Agatha, to my grandparents Harry and Anne, to my mom and dad. They would be so proud to see that the farm is still being family-owned. I've managed the company for the last 15 years. Not everything has gone smoothly. There were several bumps in the road, and I frequently had to adapt our business model. But every time I go to work, I feel sheer joy. I wouldn't give up this place for the world. The changes in society and in the market caused me to worry about the future of my business. But when I met Ira and Ralph, I saw a new opportunity.
Alles goed?
Ja, zeker. Een goede reis gehad. And now I'm glad to have decided to start producing cultivated meat on my farm.
The concept to have farmers to be able to work with cultivated meat will require support for those who want to get into it. To show them how things can be done. This is how to organize it, these are the resources you need, to create a sort of ready-to-use concept, depending on what is already there and what you will be able to connect to it. And that is what we are trying to bring together.
Growing cultivated meat is actually very simple. It is meat that grows in a bioreactor. I take a tiny sample of tissue from one of my cows. Subsequently, we place this in a liquid media in the reactor. In this reactor, we simulate that the cells are inside the cow, which makes them multiply and grow.
Well, what we see that there's a lot of discussion going on about food transition. And ultimately, it's the farmers who produce our food. And also, those farmers have an interest in it being done in an adequate way, with a quality and tasty product. And it ties in their future and business model, how they create value and make money. So for them, it's a matter of urgency to be committed within this transition.
The concept of producing meat in a different way and growing as a business has opened my eyes. I'll be able to produce more meat annually while keeping fewer cows. And they don't need to be slaughtered.
The farm is a smart location to grow cultivated meat because all you need is already there. Of course, cultivated meat requires animals and cells, both of which can be found there. And you need people who know how to handle them. And there are people working there familiar with following processes and who know how to deal with hygiene. But you also need energy, and they have a place to generate it. And farmers can certainly play a role in feeding the cells, and they can also play a role in recycling and waste management. So why wouldn't we do it in a place like that?
The plans are becoming more tangible. It is great to work with a variety of experts who are helping me to make the farm ready for the future.
Hey, goedemorgen.
Hey, jij bent vast Lieneke.
Ja.
Lieneke, the architect, will be designing the new layout for my stable. She made a plan with a process technologist to suit the stable for cultivated meat production.
While designing the renovation of the stable, we mainly look at how to use the equipment area required for the meat production in the most efficient way. The walkways between the different functions are most important here. Hygiene is of the utmost importance. En dat kan je ook heel goed schoonmaken. And additionally, the required technical installations must be placed. And it must all be fitted efficiently in the current stable.
Ja, 5 meter.
5 meter.
There is not one stable specifically suitable for producing cultivated meat. It is the architect's challenge to make a stable suitable for meat production. It is, for instance, easier to have the piping run above your head in one stable, while in a different stable it should be passing below. But there is always a solution. In addition to the design of Farmer Teun, we also made a design for a dairy farm. And currently we are working on a proposal for a pig farm. The equipment and working process are the same for every stable. We look at the available space and create an as optimal as possible design.
The design is so smartly devised, and I thank Lieneke for involving me in the design process.
You enter via the control room, where you can monitor the entire process. And then you proceed to the hygiene lock. The hygiene lock will lead you to the production area. Depending on the production area size and height, an X number of bioreactors are installed, which may also vary in height. Adjacent to the production area, there is a space for the feed of the raw materials, an installation room, and when harvesting meat from the bioreactor, it is brought to the packaging area, which is also refrigerated.
We basically link Teun to the people and technologies that are required to turn this farm into a location where ultimately cultivated meat can be produced.
The renovation went quicker than anticipated, and the cultivated meat process is in fact rather simple. I still supply meat and have been able to expand my sales market.
Mooie ruimte. We are convinced that the most sustainable meat comes from a farm, because it's cultivated meat with all its benefits and also produced in a local circular chain. That is an opportunity we have to take now. This is the moment to show that at this scale it can offer economic and ecological benefits.
My working day is virtually the same as before. I check how the ladies are doing. I look after the crops required for feeding the cells.
Hé man. Kijk. Ja.
Moet je dat stuk nog doen of werk je dan?
Ga je op GPS?
And sitting at the kitchen table, I watch the cells grow. It's time to harvest. It is still very special that I'm now able to supply more meat from fewer animals. Many buyers, like most chefs, are local to my area, and the hamburgers they produce are very tasty. It is nice that the region appreciates you for what you do. I could not have predicted a brighter future some years ago. But look at us now. My cows stay with me for longer. The business is more prosperous than ever. And isn't it amazing that I'm still farming on the same spot as my grandpa William once did? Imagine that.
Our language is also with RPC. So when we invited them to have discussions on cultivated meats, at first they were like, why are you inviting me for something like this? What's going on? And then we showed them this film and some other material to explain what we were talking about. And then literally their posture went to like, okay, so what does it cost? What do I have to invest? How long will it run? What do I need to learn? And who's my off-taker? Who's going to buy it from me? And those are questions that are important to farmers because they want to know, okay, even if I need to think about this, what's my role in this value chain? Currently, if we listen to cultivated meat companies all over the world, they usually say, yes, but we still need the farmers for the feed. So this in the middle, to feed the cells. True, we need crops, but those crops currently can go to animals, so why bother? But for this new industry, we will still need animals. We will need animal husbandry, and not just for cows, like in this film, but also for pigs and for fish, for shrimp, for all species that we want to eat. We need farmers, and we need their expertise, and we need their workforce, and we need their ability to do a 24/7 job, which is actually farming cells. That is not something you do from 9 to 5. What is the role of RESPECTfarms? In the middle. We need to make sure that farmers are enabled to do this, that they know where to go, they know what to do. And we have a task as RESPECTfarms to make sure that what they need is as inexpensive and simple as possible. So we came up after intensive research that we got funding for from the European Union to make sure that the design criteria for whatever needs to go into farms and farming are simple and not expensive, because it's not pharma, but it is food. And everything currently used by people in cultivated meat comes from pharma, where scale and how much it costs is actually never an issue, because we are willing to pay millions to save a heart, but we're not ready to pay millions to save people from going hungry. It's painful to say that, but that's a fact. And if you say, okay, but is this a good idea? Yes, it is a very good idea. Farming is one of the largest, if not the largest industry in the world. And climate change that we're talking about, what does that actually mean? It will mean it will be harder for us to rely on the climate to help us grow our foods. And it is smart to make sure that we have local, robust, simple, affordable, trustworthy, transparent, and safe things that can help us provide everyone in the world. So not just the Dutch, and not just Europe, and especially not just America. No, growing democracies, growing countries, growing areas like Southeast Asia and Africa. They also need high-end protein like meat, because protein is not just one thing. Protein is high-end protein that is easily digested and that's been built up children, that can sustain elderly, and there's more difficult protein coming from plants, which is harder to digest for a lot of people. So let's say, yeah, let's make sure that this industry becomes part of this fun thing that we talk about, which is cultivated meat. And then why? Well, I didn't come up with this. These are these people that do all of these numbers. This is what they say it's going to be. Do we want those numbers, which is 35% of a huge market, to only come from factories? Something which is very unlikely to be easy? No, we don't want that. So we need to make sure here, if we can, that we at least figure out how that 35% of the market share in the food product is divided by some factories. I'm fine with that if we also have cultivated meat factories. Way to go. But also an array of farmers globally producing this kind of products. And whether it's a hybrid product, whether it's an ingredient, whether it's a whole cut, I don't care. I think that industry will be there. And while we are expecting only to be able to come from factories, it is actually quite ridiculous. Next up, proof of concept farm. We are currently raising some money, not a lot, just 10 million, to build the first ever farm that produces cultivated meat on a farm, run by a farmer. And it's very likely that we will be able to do that, but all help is welcome. So if you know people that really want to be impactful, send them our way. And there we will engage with governments, with politicians, and governments and politicians are two different things. And we will engage with farmers, because it is a little bit like show, don't tell. I can tell you whatever, but of course it will make a huge difference if I can invite you and farmers on a farm that is a familiar place, and where that farmer himself will tell you, his name is Leon Monen, why he wanted to do this already since 2011 and have his cows still roaming around in nature. This is again showing how we envision this. So not just the export of, let's say, milking robots from the Netherlands. No, let's also have on our portfolio here and also in Germany and our company, very likely that the Germans will be able to build it. Yeah, export farms like this. I want to go to my team, because I'm very, very proud to work with Cofounder, who is a farmer and who is currently selling his concept farm to the world. And his ex currently, he's a vegan who thinks, okay, as long as we still are massively producing eggs and still wanting to eat eggs, let's at least then do it in the best and most sustainable way. He created a concept that is a farm, and he exports farms to Jamaica, to the US, to Germany, and that's what we also want to do. So he's part of our team. Florentine Ziglovsky, well, she's also actually part of Niels's team here. My German co-founder, she's actually the one that makes this all run. She's very, very important to all of us. And Ralph Betts, he's a business designer. Because if we don't figure out what the farmers want, and whether that's in the Netherlands or Germany or Switzerland or France, or in the region around Singapore, and there you can help us, it is not a good idea to do this. So we will have to figure out, how can we do this? One of the beauty of farmers is that they can work very well in collaboratives. And this is going to be something that is done locally, but collaboratively. Not every farmer will be the one that wants to make the end product. Not every farmer will want to be the one that still has the animals and makes the biopsies. That is the thing that we need to create and work out together. And on behalf of my dad, and people wondering why we use the logo, this is my father. Saying thank you to animals, thank you to farmers, because when he came up with this idea, he was heavily attacked by two groups. One were the vegetarians. Why would you think we would ever eat something like that, Mr. Van Eelen? And the other groups was farmers. Mr. Van Eelen, do you think you can make anything that's good at what we can make? And then he made me drive to that farm. He had a 10-minute conversation with the farmer, and the farmer just wanted to know, how much does it cost? What do I need to invest? What do I need to learn? Who will buy it from me? Because what he understood, that if he could still grow his business for his next generation, let's say his children, his grandchildren, without having to harness the animals in more cramped spaces, farmers actually like that. Yes, they like animal husbandry, but not the way we've asked them to do that. And that's a huge pink elephant in any farmer's room that they will never talk about, but it is there. So if you have any thoughts on value chain, poverty alleviation, harnessing climate, and the possibilities of incorporating farmers that are currently being abused as clickbait for far-right thoughts, then please help us build this first farm and show that innovation is part of farming and not against farming. Thank you very much.